Maren, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Maren. I'm on the board of directors of Lean In Equity and Sustainability, and I'm a lawyer at Addleshaw Goddard, focusing on energy law.
And for those who don't know me, I'm Rita Husken. I'm also on the same board, and I'm also the founder of Sustainability. And today we're attending ONS in Stavanger, which is, in the old days, we called it the oil exhibition. And as things are transitioning, there is a big debate even, should we call it the oil and gas exhibition? So now it's turning into becoming the energy exhibition in Stavanger. But it's good fun to be together. And we have now just attended Petrol Ladies Club. Amazing gathering. I think we were more than 100, 120.
It was a busy room. They had to put in extra chairs. So
I know, it was really busy.
Great attendance.
Yeah. And what was the theme?
The theme, and it's a theme for ONS, is trust. And trust is the big word of the year. And it's important because as an industry, oil and gas and energy, trust is a big part of the question at the moment, because we're talking about energy security.
Yes.
Trust in an industry that has fallen out of fashion in many ways, because oil and gas is no longer considered to be clean. It's dirty, and you get into the dichotomy between clean energy, renewable energy on the one hand, and the old dirty fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And so it's a really big theme.
Yeah.
But today we talked about also, because it's Petro Ladies Club, what it means for diversity.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's really interesting just to think about that. I mean, generally, if we think about the energy industry, have a problem in getting enough female talents to stay in the industry and to attract them in. And the oil and gas industry probably have an even more of a challenge. So some of the conversation we had today with also the former energy minister Tina Bru was about how is it to be a woman in a very male dominated industry, like in politics. And she was there as a politician as well. How do you take up space? And I think one of the key things that caught my attention was both her and Kalle, which is the CEO of Aker BP, was talking about just be yourself. You just we need to just be ourselves. And I don't know, what do you think about that statement?
It's interesting, and we very quickly came into that topic of what does that mean. Even Kalle, and this, I thought this was really telling, he said he spent his early days of being a CEO in a dark suit, wearing out lots of dark suits, until he realised that actually he didn't need to wear a dark suit to be a CEO, and he now dresses as he pleases, which I thought was very refreshing.
Yeah, yellow shoes and red shoes, and
it's fantastic. But also, it's the perception, and it's really easy to bring in all these diverse people, and as you said, Lisa, when they then come through the door, it's okay. Well, but now you have to fit with our corporate profile. You have to fit with our values, and then suddenly you're not allowed to actually be diverse. You are, as a matter of fact, diverse because you are a minority in the room, but you are expected to speak a certain way, hold certain values, have certain ideas and share philosophies with the corporate entity. And I think actually that can be quite problematic, and the way Tina Bru put it was excellent. I thought it means, you're diverse in every respect, but please act like a 45-year-old white man.
Exactly.
And I thought that was spot on.
Yeah. I love it.
That's that having to adapt. It's like, okay, you are diverse, but please be like us.
Yeah. And I think this is actually big. And I think this is big in Norway. And I think about so many of the clients that I'm working with who are female leaders. And in my job, I'm taking them through, how do you take the next leap? And many say, I am fed up of having to fit in to a place where I feel that I can't really truly express myself. I remember one client, she came to me and she had the job of her dreams. She thought she came in there. She was hired for whatever, all the right reason. And she thought she was hired for her thoughts and her way of challenging status quo. Because that's what I said. And then when she entered this organization and she sat down in meetings and she started to speak in her way, she was told kind of, you need to put it down a bit. We don't really speak like that. We don't really ask these type of questions because it seems like you don't have a trust in the others. And she said, are you telling me that I'm hired just to conform? I mean, what is the difference then? Have a minority background. I'm a certain age. I'm a woman, different religion, and now I can't even share my voice. She actually left this organization because of that. So, again, I'm curious what you think about that. When we hear the word trust, there was a lot about trust in the organization, trust from leadership. That's what Kalle, CEO of Aker BP, was talking about. How do you bring in leaders, create trust? But when we talk about women and trust, what's your take on that?
I think with women, there's a lot of issues. First of all, a lot of the time, we don't trust ourselves, and a lot of that comes through in the way we communicate. And if we don't trust ourselves, we can't expect anyone else to trust us, and that's an important thing. And Tina Boo shared a fantastic anecdote about when she first became minister. It wasn't what she'd had in mind. She didn't know anything about oil and gas, and that fear of saying the wrong thing, and the lengths that she went to bring herself up to speed, to get comfortable before she dared open her mouth. And she made a very good point. As women, we tend to be quite perfectionist. We tend to want to be at the 100% level before we open our mouths, and actually that holds us back. Whereas a lot of the time, you don't have to be at that level, and quite frankly, a lot of the time men don't get to that level before they dare speak up. So having trust in oneself first, and figuring out what you need to do to trust yourself enough to speak is a really big, important step, I think, especially from a career perspective. You need to find that thing that gives you the faith in yourself.
Yeah, I so agree with you, because one of the other words that were used quite a lot was masking. We're masking a problem. Again, what he was talking about, if you went to a rig and they had masked the problem, he would be really upset. But if they were saying we did a mistake, he said, how great, let's work on it. The same goes for us as women. I know this may be brutal. I'm sharing that from a big loving heart, and being a woman myself, and have gone through a lot where I have been masking, pretending, trying to fit in. It doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve the people around you, because they don't know who they're actually dealing with. So to try to act as if we know everything, if we don't do, it's better to be super curious and say, tell me more. What do I need to know, and actually see that people are far more willing to support and help us on the way than if we don't. But also on the same side is, when we know, speak up and say, this is my view, this is what I see, and trust that when we're talking about diversity, it is exactly that level of diversity we need. We need different mindset. This is also, we talk about different lived experiences. We need to bring our lived experiences to the table in conversation, which might be very technical, but maybe a lived experience that you have as a mom, or looking after somebody close to you who is sick or whatever, is actually a point of view that is actually needed in a technical conversation. I know it sounds really odd, but it's this level of trust, that do I really trust myself to the degree that I can just speak up
and think outside of the box.
Yeah.
And I hate that expression because it's so overused, but it's trusting yourself that you can add something. And even if and I'm very guilty of this, I know this, is that because I'm a lawyer and I'm not a technical person, I sometimes can be afraid of jumping into a conversation. But the number of times I have jumped into a conversation with a different perspective, people go, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. That's interesting. They don't necessarily, so don't underestimate what you might be able to contribute with.
Yeah.
Just don't assume that what you have to bring is of no value just because it isn't 100% on point.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I was thinking about, female leadership as well. Even that is some people here, in particular here in Norway, I have to say, in Norway, we think, well, we don't talk about those things. We don't talk about female leadership. We don't talk about male leadership. But I think we need to understand that as women, we lead in a different way. And when we focus on, let's say, female leadership, and we talk about trust, that focusing on how do we build trust? How do we kind of train that muscle of trusting ourselves inside out? How do we as women communicate? Because that can also sometimes be a challenge, I'm sorry to say, but do we trust each other? Do we put each other forward? So I think when I'm thinking about trust, I also think about the connection with female leadership. How can we think that if I trust myself, I'm becoming a much stronger leader in my feminine self. So for the whole word of trust is so important. We talk about the industry today, building trust in the industry, building trust between oil and gas to renewable, building trust in if somebody has a neurodiversity, ADHD, Asperger's, any sort of handicap. Do we feel that I can trust my surrounding enough to speak my mind? Because it's so easy to, you just trust. But if I feel like an outsider, am I really ready to speak up and trust, be vulnerable and trust? I think that's really difficult. So we need to start with society, but also ourselves.
And it's really interesting, and to bring it back to lean in, actually, because I know one of the phrases Tina used a few times was, you lean away from things if you're not confident, if you don't have trust. And what we want people to do and what we need to do is lean in. So it brings it back to what our organisation is all about, is to lean in. And, what would you do if you weren't afraid?
Absolutely. True. I love that. I also have to say another thing. I know we use the lean in. I also think we need to lean out. I know that now contradicted what we're saying here, but I'm thinking it from a different perspective. Sometimes I feel when we are so eager to lean in, we forget to listen and pay attention to what's really going on. But when we're kind of leaning back and we're starting to just observe and think, what's going on? What about that person over there? Why doesn't he or she speak up? What's going on here? And then lean in.
This is so important because I have been discussing a recent event with someone where we had it was a workplace situation that was difficult, and one of the issues was that something wasn't reported up to leadership, and it was a diversity and inclusion issue, and everyone just sort of started thinking, oh, what do we do, how do we address this? I said, why did they not report it up the chain? That has got to be the first question that has been answered. Don't start taking action until we've answered that question.
Oh my goodness.
And that's so important, because there's that tendency to knee jerk. There's an issue, right? Let's bring out our diversity and inclusion toolkit and throw everything at it because that's how we fix it. Stop. Think. Listen first.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, that's where you get if you don't listen to people, they won't trust you.
No. Absolutely. So I think, just to conclude, I think if we really want to build trust, at least that's from how I see it, if we want to really create trust, there are two ways. I need, as a person, to start listening to myself as well. what's really going on for me? What is my triggers? Why do I feel uncomfortable in certain situations? And do I dare speaking up about being uncomfortable in a situation? Or do I mask it and say everything is fine? So inside out is important. The other one for me is listen to surroundings, ask questions, ask colleagues, ask people around you what's going on for them, and just pay attention and listen. Create dialogue. And I think this is also what was addressed today. Trust is dialogue. And I agree to that. If we have solid dialogue, open, create dialogue rooms. Um, I had a live on Sunday where I was talking about grief. Everyone grieve in one way or the other, but there's also the elephant in the room. Nobody dares to bring up somebody who's lost somebody or somebody who is going through divorce. There's this hush hush mentality. So the dialogue is important. Can we trust each other to share willingly? And that's a way to move the organizations forward, the industry forward, and to create sustainable solutions. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think that's 100% correct. Is having the conversations and listening, and not just simply employing top-down solutions.
Yeah, I agree. So we decided to just jump on live, very impromptu, and I think we'd love to hear from you as well. Put your questions in the comment, your thoughts in the comment. Also invite you to check out Lean and Equity and Sustainability, global movement. And we would love to welcome you there, participate in what we're doing, make a difference, change your own life, change other people's lives at the same time. And look forward to hearing from you. Bye.